And from everyone who has been given much shall much be required. And to whom they entrusted much, of him they will ask all the more. Luke 12, verse 48. Well, thank you again for allowing me to come and to be with you, and thank you for coming back. Some of you heard me this morning and you came back, and that's great. I appreciate that. And tonight, the elders have provided an opportunity for me to speak to you about Africa, and I want to do that. And I have about 2.5 hours worth of material that I'm going to cover in the next 40 minutes. And then we'll have a song or two and have a prayer, and then you get to ask questions. And I look forward to trying to answer any questions that you might have. I want to say a special thank you to my family, Keith and Nikki. They had me for supper and for lunch and offered to let me stay with them, but because they're family, we didn't. But no, we love them very dearly. They're great family, and we appreciate them very, very much. And I know he's a good elder, and he's doing a good job. He's got a good wife, family, and I know you appreciate him. I know they appreciate you. Mark and Vicki Raymer are here, known them since forever, and second brother to me for many, 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 many days, and I appreciate them. Gary Hatcher, known that guy way back too, and loved his dearly beloved Joyce, and sorry for her leaving us. But it's good to see Gary. Appreciate them very much. Angie Burrows. I don't know what your last name is now. It's too long. I can't say that. But known Angie way back in the day. And I mentioned Jeremy and what's your wife's name? Kim. And known them a long time too. And I'm sure there are others, the Hawks, knew these folks. And just really appreciate all of you. And getting to know some of others as well. Appreciate that. So I'm just going to dive in here and start talking about Zimbabwe. And I will do a lot better if I'm down there. Is that okay? No rules broken? Okay, that's good. That's good. I was in a meeting here recently, and I don't really preach real well behind that thing. And I do better down here. And I was down here, and one of the brothers, after he was back in a booth like that, and he says, Brother Salih said, we can't see you on the camera when you're down here. And I said, great. And so I just stayed down here the whole meeting, because if people start seeing me, that's a problem. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about Africa. And it's off. Now it's on. Go. June 28th to July 14th, 17-day trip. When you go to Africa, it's intense. It's always adventurous, and lots of things can happen. Expect it to happen, and it does. Zimbabwe is located in the South Africa, and just north of South Africa, the country, and just a little bit west of Mozambique. And the distance there, you can see here, it's a fur piece. From Rogersville, where I actually lived, to Huntsville, then to Atlanta and Johannesburg, 9,300 miles. I put this up because people always want to ask me, how much does it cost to go there? A lot. It's about $3,300 round trip for 4 different flights to get there. But that doesn't include your food, hotel, fuel, and helping support the other guys, Africans that go with us. It's very expensive. It's not a holiday cruise. It's work. Zimbabwe is a very interesting country. If you go back and study your history a little bit, in yesteryear this was Rhodesia. And when it was Rhodesia, it was a much bigger country. Mutare is where I've been going. When you go to Africa, when you specifically go to Zimbabwe, you can't just plan on going everywhere like Bulawayo or going up to Hinga, or you can't do all of that. You just got to pick out an area because it's just too intense. Okay, so we go to Mutare, and to give you an idea here, the size of the country of the United States to Africa. My understanding is, I haven't checked. Some of you maybe can. Is the friend of mine would say goggle it. You can goggle it. But the population of the United States and the population of Africa is about the same. Okay, so you've got a lot more people over a larger landmass in Africa. This is the size of Zimbabwe compared to some of the states. And the state of Alabama, it's about a third the size of Zimbabwe, just to give you some kind of ideology of it. I'll be talking about kilometers from time to time. Took me a while to get used to that. But the mileage issue, our day was probably anywhere from 12 to 14-hour days. And we would travel anywhere from 100 to 200K a day, one way, and then back home. A lot of traveling. We're talking about not interstate, paved roads. We're talking about dirt roads out in the bush. We say in Kentucky, that there's holes in the road that, it's big enough to bury a cow in. Well, over there, they're big enough to bury an elephant in, okay? They're big holes. And so it's dusty and it's dirty. Fuel there was $1.88 per liter. When you subtract the 2 and carry the 3 and so forth, it's about $8.55 per gallon. And when we go fill up the vehicles, we'd have 2 vehicles to fill up. Those vehicles, they're all diesel vehicles that we travel in. Anywhere from $150 to $200 to fill it up. So it's quite expensive, but it's absolutely essential. We couldn't get around. You can take public transportation, but you're talking about all day to go just a few kilometers. And lots of public transportation, buses and so forth and so on, don't go out into the bush, into the little towns and villages that we need to go to. This is the gang. This young man right here is Damon Ferris. He's a school teacher in Athens, Alabama. He goes to Anderson Church. He went with me this time. He's also, quote, a second preacher there at Anderson. He preaches while I'm gone in meetings and so forth. This guy right here is Steve Klein. He's been over to Africa many, many, many times. He was the one that got me to go to Africa. We both teach together at Athens Bible School. He teaches 11th grade Bible. I teach 10th grade Bible. And we've been together a long time. This is Reason. He is one of the Africans that transport us. He has a vehicle, and he takes us where we need to go and so forth. And this is Gary Boyd. He is one of the elders at Eastside where Steve Klein preaches in Eastside. And Gary lived about 5 years in South Africa. He married a South African. And it was really great for him to go with us. He just his knowledge that he has, and was great help. He's also an elder, and in our study series that we did with about 30 local preachers, he taught some classes on elders and importance to the local church and so forth. So that was very, very helpful. This is Taka, and this is Trimore. You're familiar with Trimore. And these two guys right here are just tremendous workers. Reason is as well. Taka and Trimore, I'll probably mention it again later, but they are the closest thing to New Testament Christianity evangelists that do the mission work that God intends them to do than I've ever seen anybody ever do anywhere at any time. Just tremendous young men. Probably in the neighborhood, I knew at one time, but they're 35 to 40 years old, something like that, their age. So here we are out in the bush, and you can see the roads back there. That's a pretty good road right there. And so we're out in the bush. So one of the guys that you all support is Peta, this guy on the left. And this is Robert. We also call him John the Baptist. And we'll tell you why that in a little bit if I don't forget it. But this Peta, you're supporting, and I'm sure your elders can give you more up-to-date facts about that, something like $600 a month preaching support. These two guys right here are, for lack of a better term, they are trainees. But they are veteran trainees. The kind of way they do it there, that Try More and Taka and Reason, these guys, what they do, there are guys that want to preach the gospel. And they will travel with Reason, Try More, and Taka for several years. And they don't try to do anything to help them get financial support in any way for a long time. They want to test them. Will they do the work? Will they be dedicated? Will they be, committed without getting anything? So these guys worked a long time traveling with Talking Try More out in camp meetings and doing all the work of evangelism and so forth. But then they're ready to be supported, and you guys came along just at the right time to help Peta in supporting him. Now, I forgot, what did I say y'all supporting him? 400, 500? Yeah. $750 a month is poverty level. Okay? So $400 or $500 a month is just, but that's what we need. That's what they really are to start with. But this man has a family. You can imagine living on $400 a month. You say, wow, well, it's, U.S. dollar is so much stronger there. Yeah, really, but everything there is like 3 times as expensive as it is here. So it's just really tough to live on $400 a month. But Peta is a very, very good man. Robert and Peta, they were the guys when we traveled in Zimbabwe these 17 days that we were gone. We would visit probably 40 to 50 congregations. And Robert and Peta would, in another vehicle, they would travel ahead and they would get the brethren assembled because we're assembling, our brethren are assembling every day of the week, in the mornings, in the afternoons, and they're rounding them up, okay? And so they go and they get them rounded up and they meet under a shade tree or a lean-to or something, and we're going to have worship services. And one day, Robert come up to me and he said, about halfway through the service, they get in the car and they go off to the next place to get them rounded up, for us to meet again. And he looked at me and he says, I am just like John the Baptist. And I didn't catch it at first, and he says, I am preparing the way for you. I said, we'll go with that. See you, John. Just really, really good men, dedicated men. This is a bauble tree. They sometimes refer to it as the tree of life, just a very unusual tree that's there. There's Damon standing there, and that's not really a big one. They get really, really huge. They grow extremely fast, and they're very soft trees. This is some young girl that we met going out to the area, and she was carrying bananas, and we bought some bananas from her, and just a very sweet lady. They're going to school. This is there any way to turn these lights off right here, or is it turn off everything? Because are y'all seeing these pictures very good? I guess my eyes are bad since I'm old. Kevin, can you see that? Smart aleck. Okay. That's a little more better. Thank you. Just a typical house out in the bush. Looks very like, you've seen old Western movies or something in Southwest U.S., back in the 1800s kind of thing. Actually beautiful landscape and scenery throughout Zimbabwe. These are the basic needs of Zimbabwe: food, preaching support, Bibles, songbooks, widows' meds, orphan school, water irrigation. Now, you all as a church collectively are sending thousands of dollars each month there. And I commend you. It's a tremendous work you're doing. I remember when Keith called me and said, you guys were going to help. I was like, awesome, great. It's a good thing. But what I'm here to do as well is to help you to see what the collective is doing, but to appeal to you individually. I think you're quite aware of the fact that as individual disciples of Christ, we have individual responsibilities in helping others, not just collectively. And I would like to encourage you to think about as a family. For instance, James 1:27, Galatians 6 and verse 10. Throughout the decades, that's been debated between institutional and non-institutional brethren. And I hear brethren all the time say, well, if I could just find an orphan, or if I could just find a widow, or if I could just find somebody legitimate that I could help, I would love to be able to do that. Let me tell you, if you want to help someone individually, James 1, Galatians 6, man, have I got a solution for you. There is lots of opportunities. So, having said that, there are many widows that need meds. And you can do that personally. There are orphans that need to go to school. Now, who are these orphans? A lot of Christians die in Zimbabwe. These are children of former Christians. And the local disciples, they take them into their homes and they take care of them. There's no adoption process. There's no, sacred selections deal there. They just take them in. They start raising them. It's very difficult for a family of 5 or 6 to take in 2 or 3 more orphans. But they do that all the time. So it's difficult to feed them. But it's also difficult to get them to school. It costs about $150 for a kid to go to elementary school for a year. That includes their uniform. It's about $175 to $180. Sometimes a little more than that, maybe close to $200 for a kid to go to high school. Includes their uniform. So you want to help a kid go to school? You can do it. There's preacher support. There's nothing wrong with you as an individual helping a preacher. You can do that as an individual. Buying Bibles. Just recently, a church sent $15,000 to buy 1,000 Bibles. Probably in the neighborhood of about 9 out of 10 churches I went to this past time did not have Bibles. None of the members had Bibles. They can buy Bibles in country. The Bible is translated into Shona, which is their local dialect. They also speak very good English. But it costs way too much money to buy Bibles here and send them over there. It's not monetarily feasible. So it's best to send money over there, let them buy Bibles there. So it costs anywhere, if you buy 1,000, about $15 a piece. Anything less than that, it's anywhere from $18 to $20 a piece. So if you want to buy 10 Bibles, you can do that. I'm just saying there are ways that you can be involved personally in the work in Zimbabwe. Let me just stop there. Zimbabwe is not the only country in Africa. There are many countries in Africa. There are many Christians in all of those countries in Africa. We have brethren all over Africa. They're out of sight. Therefore, they're out of mind. But they are still our brethren, and they are in great need. Chickens and goats. The first time I went to Zimbabwe, you didn't see a chicken. You didn't see a goat. The government there is an elected president. They have a parliament, but it's basically a dictatorship. And he decided when he began to rule that all other countries could not send in any kind of aids or helps or supplies. So basically he was starving his people. He also, back in the day when it was Rhodesia, the country was ruled by Great Britain. Then that changed. The boundaries changed. The name changed. There were a lot of white ranchers and farmers there that employed most all of these Zimbabweans. The Zimbabwe president started to run out all of the white farmers. The ones he didn't kill. He stole their land. Thus began the very serious problem of no food in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, when it was Rhodesia, was called the breadbasket of Africa. They provided food for all of Africa. They had famine and drought issues then. But the white farmers were able to irrigate, to build dams, etc., and they were able to have tremendous food. This is all the information that I didn't get off of Google. This is from the Black Brethren. There's over 90% unemployment in that country. There is absolutely nothing for them to do. They have no hope of tomorrow to do anything because the government doesn't help them. Until just recently. All of a sudden, chickens started showing up. Goats started showing up. Cows started showing up. I asked one of the Zimbabweans, I said, "Do you all drink the goat's milk?" And he looked at me like, "Can you do that?" Now that seems like a very simple thing, but they've not had goats. Now they got goats. So they're learning. So that there is a great, great, great opportunity that the food needs that you're supplying may eventually be lessened tremendously if they just learn to milk a goat. It's simple things. Now, I know we have black folks here and white folks here in Africa. They talk about the black, the whites, and the coloreds very openly. It's not socially or politically incorrect. My dear brethren, they said that they are getting with the whites that are still allowed to be there, and they are learning how to farm. That was great news. The president has just recently said that we want the white farmer to stay in Zimbabwe. We can't bring back the ones we killed, but all the ones we ran out of country, we will let you come back and you can come back to your farms. There are some that are coming back, but there are many that are not because the surrounding countries accepted them with open arms when they left because everyone knows who was feeding Zimbabwe. So this time when I was over there, we saw some tremendous farms. It was raising lots of food. And every time, Trimore would say, that is a white man's field. If they can keep that going, that'll be great. Be praying about that. Be praying specifically about that. That would be a wonderful, wonderful thing. This is Naboth. He gets no support. He preaches with Guise Church. Trimore is with him. And I mentioned this because some of your funds that you send to Trimore, a couple of $1,000, something like that a month, is going to help feed some of the brethren at Guise and other churches. This is the Guise Church, about 105 members, and that's sort of typical of the kind of place that you would meet there. So as we all sit on our padded pews and everything, we enjoy that. It's a little bit different there. This is a very interesting little story, and I wanted to take the time and show you the pictures here. This is a little fella here we call Teach. This is his wife and their little baby. This little guy here, he shows up in Mutare just a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. And he's not a Christian. Robert, John the Baptist, met this guy and taught him the gospel, and he became a Christian. And for who knows why, Teach decides to move to this area called UMP, U-M-P. And there are no Christians there. So he tells Trimore and Taka and Robert and Peta that they need to come over there and do a camp meeting. And I'll talk more about that in a sec. But they came over there and they did a camp meeting. They converted a whole bunch of people. They established some churches. There wound up being 3 churches. They didn't have any preachers over there. So this little guy right here, Teach, he decided to be a preacher. So he's preaching for all 3 of these churches. Now I want you to notice here, just in about 2 years' time, they've got 70 and 90 members in these local churches. We did not get to meet with this group. I'm not sure how many they have. But they have just been multiplying. Now someone says, oh, well, we know the reason they're multiplying is because we're sending food over there and people are getting baptized so they can get food. And that sounds kind of logical, doesn't it? But that's exactly not the case. Because the places that are really popping, lots of folks being baptized, they're not getting food. So that kind of blows that deal. But I want you to think about something. Just food for thought. In Acts chapter 2, on the day of Pentecost, when about 3,000 people were baptized, and then you remember in chapter 2, they started talking about how that they were meeting from house to house and they were sharing with all. Do you think anybody else who was not a Christian saw them doing that and said, hey, that looks like a pretty good deal over there? You think maybe they did that? You think maybe the thousands of people that in the next few chapters of Acts, you think that may have influenced that? Now, all I'm saying is this. No one goes over there and preaches and teaches and hands out cookies and $5 bills to people so they'll come to church. That is not what's going on. But there is an appeal of the gospel for the community of the church to show people you can have a family and they'll help you and take care of you. That's an important message. This is how they cared their little babies. And I have to tell you this little story. While Damon is up here preaching, I'm back here taking some pictures. And this sweet lady right here, she's taking care of her baby. And when she's through taking care of him, you know, I tried not to stare at her, but I was just curious as what she was going to do. She took this little guy, and I don't know how old I don't know how old that little baby is. He's not very old. But she grabbed him by both of his arms like this, and she slung that little dude around on her back. And then she let go of him, and she just stood like this. She was taking her apron and whatever it was, and she was folding it and everything. And I was looking at that little guy. His eyes were wide open. He's just looking around everywhere. He's not moving a muscle. Some of you ladies try that with your baby. Throw that baby on your back like that and see how long they stay. I think he's fallen off before. So he knows, be cool, man. I mean, stay cool. Don't fall off of here. And she takes that wrap and she wraps it around him, you know, and gets him all secure and everything. And just for lack of staring at her and taking too many pictures, I took a picture of another woman. That's what it winds up like. And she carries him around. Some of you girls might try that out. That's pretty cool right there. And then balancing that on their heads. Usually they got a big bunch of sticks that they've got on their heads that they're using to barter. This is one of the widow ladies here. Just beautiful, beautiful people. And just wanted to show you her. And this guy here, you are also supporting as well. This is Nemo. Let me see here. Oh, there's some of my buddies. These are all orphans here. These are orphans. Very, very sweet. You'd like to just put them in your suitcase and bring them home with you. They frown on that. They don't let you do that. But they're very, very sweet folks. Oh, there's some more of them. And some of the widow ladies back here in the back. Just very, very sweet, sweet people. Well, I was going to show you about more Nemo. I guess I got him on down the line there. So we'll talk more about Nemo in a minute. Here's Trimore. Whoops. Sorry, I don't know the... Here's Trimore. This is his wife, Melody. This little guy was born the last time before this that I went, little Timothy. And I've forgotten now which ones are his and which ones are orphans. But this is his family. So it's not unusual for these preachers to have 8, 10, 12 people in their house. And every nickel you send them, if you send them $1,000 a month for their support, they will spend every nickel. No, not going to ball games or, buying toys and stuff. They help other people. Anybody in the churches. And Trimore preaches for, I don't know, maybe 10, 12, 15 different churches. If anybody has a need, he gives it to them. So you want to help a guy like that? Help other people? That's what he does. This is the church he preaches for as well, Matika. And Traders Point also helps with food at this congregation. They report that they have 230 members, but man, there are people everywhere. The first time I went there, there was over 600 people there. 600 people for the first worship service we had. Just lots and lots of folks there. This is their building. This last time, there were so many people we couldn't meet in the building, so we met outside. And just a beautiful, beautiful people. And again, you're helping support with food these brethren. Beautiful setting, is it not? This is also Maduma Church. It's about 57K from Mutare. Trimore preaches there as well. You also help this church as well, the Maduma brethren. Here are the Maduma brethren as well. The Dream House Church, about 150 members. I'm not sure how much of the funds that you all send actually goes to these brethren, but my guess is some months it does go here. Because they kind of got to, when you have to kind of spread it out from time to time. And so they may be helping these brethren here in Maduma, or Dream House. If you guys notice, Kevin, in any of the literature or reports you are getting, whether they're helping Dream House, has he mentioned, Trimore mentioned that? Yeah. This is Nemo. This is a tremendous young man. This is his wife. These are his children. Last year, I think before you guys started supporting, y'all support Namor, right? Yeah, in preaching, $500 a month. Okay. Before you all was helping him, some others were I was helping him, some others helping him. He and his wife and their oldest daughter came down with COVID. Let me explain the medical situation there. They have government health care. But here's government health care. When you get sick, you go to the hospital, and there may or may not be a doctor there. There may or may not be a nurse there. They may or may not have medicine. Basically, you go to that kind of service to sit on a bed and die, basically. So if you're really sick, you need to go to a private hospital. And they do have some private hospitals in Mutare and in Harare and a few of the bigger towns. But these private hospitals, this is the deal. When you go there, they will tell you how much money you've got to have before they will do anything for you. And that's anywhere from like $3,000 to $5,000. So Nemo and his wife and his daughter all got COVID. So we were looking at anywhere from $9,000 to $15,000 just to get them the treatments. Their daughter died. They almost died. There were a number of brethren that died with COVID in the last couple of years. It's a sad deal. Many brethren that you know in the United States, with the medical availabilities that we have, died as well. So this young man, he works hard, he preaches hard. This is his family. This is his home. I was able to visit his home there. He's kind of got a two-part deal. This is one part of it. This is the other part. This is a very traditional in-the-bush home. This thatch roof that's there, it's grass. I was told by the Africans that this roof lasts 50 years. 50 years. Why can't we get that in the United States? I mean, we need to get some grass roofs on our houses around. 50 years. But a very beautiful family. This is the church that he helps and or preaches with, and you also help in food there as well. This is Moses McWatty. You also help him, I think, in preaching support. Moses McWatty, well, let me tell you, these are two Moseses. This is Big Moses, this is Little Moses. This is Moses McWatty. This is Moses Manyepi. All right? This guy right here is a mentor to Trimore and Taka and many of the other younger guys. And why is he a mentor? This guy right here is highly educated. He was educated with the Mutare School of Preaching that is sponsored by a Church of Christ in Texas. And he was educated there. They built a church building for him. And he preached there, and this congregation was a fairly good size. He converted a lot of folks. He started studying in regards to institutionalism. In many respects, the churches there in Zimbabwe is going through the 40s and 50s of our day. And so he studied his way out of that. He starts preaching and teaching what he believes the Bible says about those kinds of things. Well, the church in Texas found that out. They fired him from this job and marked him as a false teacher and then boarded the doors up and wouldn't allow anybody to come back to church. So Moses decided he was going to take the brethren in Texas to court. Now, I'm not highly recommending this, but this is what he did. He found out that the church in Texas did not dot the I's and cross the T's in regards to all the government red tape, paperwork, in regards to building that building. He took him to court, and he won the building. So he opens the building back up. He starts preaching and teaching, and I've preached there a couple of times, building full. Building full. He is a superb teacher. A man of high integrity. And he's helping all these other young men to understand the basic principles of Bible authority, the work, worship, and mission of the local church. And that is so important. And he's doing that. Good man, Moses McWatty. This is me with translator there, Trimore, preaching for the local congregation. There. You can see how nice a building. That is very rare in Zimbabwe to have that nice a building. There's the folks there. Okay, this is Peta. There he shows up. This is his sweet wife. This is his children. And very good man. You're helping him, and he is a very good worker. I wish I had recorded his voice for you. He has this voice that talks like this all the time. Mr. Salih, I'm so happy. It's like, wow, how do you get that voice? That's awesome. But he's just a great, great servant. This is one of the congregations he works with, the Meduman Church that I mentioned to you a moment ago. This is kind of the road situation. You can see a gravel road out in the bush, and cows, just meet them in where we did not hit a cow. Steve Klein and his group, they hit a cow. The other time I was there, we hit a cow. And it's just pretty much, if you drive in Zimbabwe, you're going to hit a cow because they're everywhere. You can see them on the road there. Now, that is a rare road, and it's a good road, and we enjoy it. But that's normal. That's the normal road. Just some pictures to show you how the brethren meet. You're also Gurari. You're helping support Peta as he works there as well. And this is pretty common that they'll have a tin roof on some poles, a lean-to, if you will. And this is where they meet. Notice all the ladies are sitting out here, all the babies and stuff. All the old men are in here in the shade. And you can't change that. Don't try to change that. That's just their culture. That's what they do. You can see it there. Now, we were there in June and July. That's the middle of our summer. It's the middle of their winter, their southern hemisphere. So it was really, really, really cold that day, probably about 72. I'm serious. I mean, when it's 72, these folks are freezing. They're freezing. And but they'll sit there and listen to you preach for 2 hours if you want to. They're very, very, and these ladies, they will sit on the ground like that, never move. Never move. This is Taka. This is the place where we're very fortunate to be able to stay. We have to find a place that is secure, has some kind of security to a degree, because we go out in the bush, we've got all of our stuff there, and we want to come back and have our stuff. And we need a place where we can go, where we can at least take a shower. If we can have hot water, that's awesome. And have a place where we can eat. And we found this place. It was really, really great. And they took really good care of us there at King's Courtyard. This is Taka's wife, Beauty. Just an excellent woman. I ate at his house. They do not have running water and or electricity, but just a tremendous worker, both of them. This is Trimore and Taka's sons. If they are half the men that their fathers are, they will be tremendous workers. Tremendous workers. One day, Trimore and Taka came to Damon and myself, and they looked at us and they said, "You need a rest." And we said, "No, we don't. We're tired. I mean, we're just shot. But no, we're fine. We'll go." And they said, "No, you need a rest." Well, we come to find out they needed a rest. They needed a rest. So they took us out to this beautiful area here where they had the Twin Falls. And this guy right here, my buddy, how can I say this nicely? He has no brains at all. Right there where he's standing and where Trimore is standing, it drops off like 500,000 feet. And me and this old guy here, we were staying as far away as we could. But they both sat down and dangled their feet off the cliff, and it's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But we had a little day of rest. And there you can see, kind of looks like a Jurassic Park setting, kind of deal. Again, the road here, didn't get a clear picture of it, but there were a bunch of baboons. I'll get it right in a minute. Baboons, they was running back and across the roads here. And when you see a baboon, those dudes are huge. Huge. And so we were glad we didn't see them up real close there. Another church at Chikara. The first day that I was out preaching, I had to stand out here in the sun. Maybe it's the next picture shows. No. I was standing out in the sun, and, with thin bacon on top, it's only 72 degrees, but the South African sun, it's like 3 minutes, and it's well done, man. It's starting to smoke. You can smell the bacon. So the rest of the trip, I had to wear my hat and preaching, and because it was the sun just really will cook you. And but these are beautiful people, beautiful, beautiful people. This is Taka's truck. Now you notice the tent here. When they have tent meetings, so here's or camp meetings. Let me tell you real quickly here about the time. I'm going to wind up talking 2 hours if I don't stop. There's an area where there's no Christians, so they continually searching out those places. So there's a village there. Each village has a chieftain or a head of that village, and so they have to go there and ask permission to go into this village. And if he gives permission, they can come in and they can preach and they can teach. But if he says no, well, you're done. You can't do anything. Okay? So the first thing they usually try to do when the chieftain says it's okay is they try to convert him. Okay? Because if they convert him, then they can have a place to worship. Because he will give them, he will choose a piece of land, and he said, well, you can meet here at this place. It's yours. He has that power. So these camp meetings, the preachers take their whole family, their kids and everything. And they'll go out there and stay anywhere from 3-5 days, week and a half, and they'll preach every day. They live there just preaching and teaching. And it's not unusual at those camp meetings for them to baptize 20, 25 people a day. A day. One day I got a report, it was 45 in one day. These guys are workers. So I'll plug this in. If you become friends with Peta, if you become friends on Facebook, if you become friends with Taka, Try More, John the Baptist, those guys, they may ask you for help to go camping. They're not going, fishing. They're going preaching. They're going fishing for men. And so if you want to help them, help them. But let me warn you, do not be becoming friends with everyone who asks a friend request because they say they know Try More. Oh, I know Peta. I'm a friend of Peta's. Do not do that. Before you push confirm, go to Try More, ask him or Peta, ask them, do you know this person? They will tell you. There are a lot of shysters. There are a lot of people trying to get your money. Try More and Taka and Peta, these guys that you are helping support, Moses, I'll just say it this way. They watch out for one another. They realize that if one of them messes up, it's a done deal for everybody. They are holding each other accountable. Unfortunately, just the last time I was there, Brother Steve, he had to confront someone that came off the tracks. Well, how did we know about that? The brethren reported it. So I say all that to say this. There have been many brethren, individuals and collective churches that have supported brethren all over the world. And then after 5 years, 10 years, find out there's not even a church, not even a preacher preaching where people have been sending money for years. That could happen in Africa. But what's going on now, that will not happen. Facebook, call it what you will, like it, dislike it. It has been a godsend for the work in Zimbabwe. Because Messenger, if you become a friend with one of these guys, they will literally send you reports every day. You know why? Because they're working every day. They'll send you reports. They're very transparent. A word to all the elders, all the deacons that are helping money-wise there. If you haven't demanded already, yes, and I use the right word, demand, Demand from these guys that they always show you receipts for every dollar you send. Receipts. Pictures of food, Bibles, etc. If you're sending personally to someone to help with widows' medicine, you want pictures of the receipts for the medicine, and you want pictures of the medicine, and you want pictures of the widows receiving the medicine. These guys expect that. They like that because they realize that that's transparency, and they're all about that. If you're supporting a guy that won't do that, drop him immediately. Drop him immediately. Oh, man, I got 2 minutes. Okay, that's about the camp meetings. You see how they camp out? And did I mention the snakes? Did I mention those? These guys have such a sense of humor. I'm an old man, and I tell them, I say, guys, when I say I need to stop, you put on the brakes, man. I got to go out in the bush. And so I go out in the bush out there, and I'm coming back. And these guys start messing with me. And they said, did you know what this area is famous for? No, what is this place famous for? Hyenas. Oh, okay, hyenas. Well, they just come out at night. No, he says there are hyenas everywhere here. Very vicious. Thank you. I went to a place where Taka was following me everywhere I went outdoors. He was following me. And finally I just said, Taka, I'm a grown man. I don't need your help. He said, well, I'm protecting you. He said, I made a promise to protect you. I said, protect me from what? From snakes. Well, nobody had talked to me about snakes. I'm in Africa. Why should anybody talk to me about snakes? And he said, there are snakes here. I said, what kind of snakes? He said, big snakes. I said, really? Big snakes. What kind of big snakes? He looked at me and he said, mamba. I said, you know about the black mamba? He says, yes, big snake. Bad snake. And he said, cobra. I said, you mean to tell me I've been going out here in the bush and there's and he says, it is winter here. They are sleeping. So just to go out in the woods, you got to watch for hyenas, snakes, rhinoceroses, or whatever else is out there. There's all kinds of things. This young couple here, very good couple. I wanted just to show you where they live. This is their house. They rent half of this house here. And this is their plumbing facilities. And that covers the potty. So that's kind of common in some of the areas of the bush. We're talking out in the bush. This is the preachers we had Bible studies with, excellent men. They all speak very good English. But when we'd be studying some things, and there were a number of these guys here that are institutional brethren. And they came to our studies, and we talked about those things. And they would tell Steve and I, time out, time out. So we would stop, and then they would start talking Shona. And they would, sometimes it would be heated. And they would have their discussion, and finally they'd get done, and they'd look back at us and say, okay, go ahead. So we don't know what they said, but they worked it out, talked about it. But it was just a tremendous opportunity to study the Bible with them. Let me just take 2 minutes to say, we were at Area 51 while we were there. This is some of the pictures of us teaching there. This is the gardens I wanted to show you. Trimore met some man that owns this land. It goes all the way back to that hill right there. And they're trying to follow the white man's instructions. Does anybody know what that is? Any of you guys know what that is? It's wheat. They're trying to grow wheat in the winter. They have water tanks there. They have a dam there. And during the winter, this is full. In the summer, when they need to grow their crops, it's dry as a bone. So they're trying to learn how to grow in the winter. This is cabbages that they were growing. Corn they were growing. Tomatoes. And they're irrigating. Guys, we didn't know about all of this till this last time, that they were even doing this. These preachers are taking out of their own pocket and trying to learn how to do this. You know how they're getting all the work done? They've got all of these churches of brethren that don't have jobs, and they're coming and working these fields. And they're trying to help each other. So the question I get, you don't even have to ask it, are they doing anything to help themselves? Answer, yes. They're trying. They're trying. Okay, that's enough. There's lots else I would like to tell you, to talk to you about. We'll stop there. You have some questions in just a few moments. There might be somebody here that's not a Christian. And we want to, by way of invitation, offer you the opportunity to become a Christian. I talked to you this morning about some of the profound things that our Lord said. No man ever spoke like this man. Do you remember that Jesus said, unless you believe that I am, you shall die in your sins? Do you remember that Jesus said, I tell you nay, except you repent, you shall all likewise perish? Do you remember that Jesus said, if you'll confess me before men, I'll confess you before my Father which is in heaven? Do you remember that Jesus said, he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved? Do you remember that Jesus said, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee the crown of life? Those are all very profound statements of our Lord. And he said those things for this very reason, that you might be saved from your sins. If you've never obeyed the gospel, you need to listen to Jesus. You need to obey Jesus. And you need to obey him now. Why? Because he said another very profound thing. I'm coming again. We don't know when that is. It's 5 after 6. Who's to say that the Lord will come at 6:15? He might come at 6:15. And for the rest of eternity, you'll be asking yourself, why did I not obey the gospel when I had the chance? You have a chance now. Won't you come as we stand and sing?